welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the WCS Montreal here in Canada as we move forward with our final quarterfinals. I am so excited. I could not possibly be more excited to bring you this next match. I'm Nathanius, your host for the weekend. You can't get rid of me. It's not happening. But I'm joined by two people who probably together could. It's In Control and Pig. Pig, how have you been enjoying your day here? You were just on the desk, so I'm just going to ask how you're doing again.
I'm more of a slow burn kind of guy. I can see you're already at the point where you're growling introductions, that sort of thing. I'm building up to there, and this next match might get me over the line. I mean, it's a 6 Zerg versus Terran. We've got Reynor and uThermal. I mean, the day is getting closer to the semis and the finals, so I'm going to be growling soon enough as well, Nate.
Wow. All right. In Control, are you ready to growl yet?
I'm always ready to growl. I'm a bit of a growler myself.
You got to join. You got to get on our team here, Pig.
Mario. I like it.
Well, the pronunciation, that's the only way that I can think to do it. But we got a great Terran versus Zerg series coming up. As you were saying, Pig, we got uThermal going up against Reynor. uThermal, cool player to follow, you know?
Yep.
He's been talking about his confidence all year. He got a lot of people laughing at him when he was talking about how he was one of the few guys that could take maps off Cyril. He felt confident against him. It didn't end up being that way, but suddenly he's looking stronger and stronger. And Cyril himself has said, for some reason, I'm not good against uThermal.
You know, that's uThermal. He's good at playing his opponents. He's good at catching his opponents off guard, but also he can run away with games very quickly. And if there's one player who's always been able to compete with the best Zergs in the world, it is uThermal. He's a player who, back when we had things like StarCraft Kings that often take down, you know, some of the top Zergs in the world, he's always been able to beat the very best, and he's got that fiery passion and emotion as well. So uThermal here, he's a big danger. Reynor's got all the hype, all the build-up, so I think there are a lot of fans who are underselling uThermal. But I think, you know, we bring it back to reality here and we say, look, uThermal, he brings out the 2 Raxes, he brings out the aggressive micro. He can definitely throw Reynor out of his element.
But Reynor has kind of been one of our other crazy hype stories, wasn't even eligible to play in WCS up until Valencia, and he has been showing a bit of dominant form, played against a maybe perhaps still jet lag need, but a great series yesterday, and all the hype has been building around this guy.
His aggression, his just relentless ability to get lings into your base, to always kind of be poking and prodding and seeing what you're up to. It keeps him well informed. But his confidence in his EVT is what gives me a lot of excitement going into this. The interview again last night with Sue, he was kind of just like, yep, Terran's a free win. And in Korea, he's gotten those results against Terran. Of course, everyone's going to cite his troublesome series against Maru, but playing against the best player in the world, you're going to have some forgiveness there. I'm excited to see what he does against uThermal.
And I'm excited to welcome the voice of WCS to bring our next 2 players on the stage. Voice, are you ready to rock and roll?
Sure.
This voice is so ready for this last quarterfinal match of the day. Montreal, are you guys ready? Let's bring these next 2 players out. It is uThermal and Reynor.
One of our only foreign Terran hopes in a long time, uThermal, going up against the rising star that is Reynor. uThermal is fighting, sitting in 8th place right now in circuit point rankings. Dangerous spot to be, gentlemen.
I mean, this is such a fun moment in time for us in the WCS circuit, because if he loses this, I believe Lambo leapfrogs him and eliminates him from BlizzCon. But if he wins this match, then it goes back to this other tug-of-war that's occurring. But he's got Reynor, and that is not an easy match. So, of course, he's thinking about Reynor, but he's thinking about Reynor stopping him from going to BlizzCon, which is at least another $10,000 and the right to play for the biggest championship in the world.
And as another Zerg, I know you also like to think about Reynor, Pig. What are your thoughts on him?
I think Reynor is, I mean, he's just a great player, and I always talk about the risks he takes, because that is something which, it can be a double-edged sword for a Zerg player, but it's something where he never gets stuck down in kind of turtling up and playing overly safe, and that's where you see a player fall apart. I've never seen Reynor fall apart on the big stage. I've seen him lose strategically, players take advantage of him, but he always plays a good game.
Haven't seen him fall apart.
One mistake with a little bit of a Ling Flood, not quite finishing a series versus Maru, does not count as falling apart in a series.
Against the best player in the world. Is it really falling apart, or are you just getting top deck?
That's a missed opportunity.
It's still falling apart. He himself calls it a throw, boys. I'm going to say it. Quoting Reynor here. He calls it a throw.
He threw versus the best player on it. Whatever.
Segment over.
Tell us about how much you love uThermal then. Does he have as good of a throwing arm as Reynor?
That's what makes this really fun is both these players. I mean, to Big's point though, by the way,
That's
Reynor.
the argument. They're both good at throwing.
We're just going to watch the dad and his son play catch today. Is that it, Jeff?
What?
They're just going to both take turns throwing the ball as far as they can?
I would love that. That'd be adorable.
All right.
Throw
There is
a
a-
Shibu stuffed animal around. Anyways, no. uThermal's the more emotional player. I definitely agree with Pig that Reynor's more consistent and seems to be unfazed by these big stages. That being said, if Reynor can get under the skin of uThermal early here, it could unravel him. He's playing for so much.
All right, well, let's find out who's going to make it into the last spot of the semifinals. It's time for Reynor versus uThermal. Thank you so much, Nate. My name is Fear Dragon. I'm joined by Zombie Grub, and we are so ready for this upcoming match. uThermal facing off versus Reynor, old school versus new school. Game is loaded, and we are getting started. Down here, the bottom left-hand corner of Lost and Found, spawning in blue from Team Liquid is uThermal.
This was his SCVs there.
Might be missing one or two.
Or three.
Or three.
In the top right, as the red Zerg, he is Reynor.
So, Zombie Grub, I've heard of this build that has an unbelievably high win rate.
Never seen it lose.
I've never seen it lose. 3 Rax three Rax's proxy. There's no gas, guys. There's back at home. uThermal gonna get very aggressive, and this is a hatch gas pool from Reynor.
It is, and Reynor also, I mean, these overlords have a okay chance at scouting the 2 racks. It does sometimes happen with the second overlord or the first rack at the very bottom, but they're not gonna scout this one. And this is the super all-in version. You don't have the old, well, maybe I got a bunker up, but I got a factory back at home. No. You barely even have a wall back at home. So you are just building Marines and hoping brute force works. I might just. Reynor's gonna go for a very quick third base.
Oh boy.
This is a very risky thing to do against uThermal, basically. I mean, the map, okay, it's a big one, but like uThermal, he'll throw out these no matter what.
Zombie Grub, I'm really worried for Reynor right now because not only is he throwing down that third hatch, but with the Marines kind of pooling up, when does Reynor ever actually discover this? Is it gonna be actually when the Lings encounter a handful of Marines making their way into the natural and bunkers are being built?
Like, I don't even, like, if he, so he's gonna try to build, like, why not try to build the bunkers? But he could actually try and bully his way forward. 4 Marines at a time, man. If he gets a good engagement against, there's only 4 Lings, you can just use the SCVs to buffer. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, SCV is just gonna be leading the charge here. Drones immediately being pulled over to the main base. One of them ends up falling. And uThermal is looking to claim a very quick game, number 1. Reynor got to muster up a defense.
Yeah, this is a bad scenario. You know, it's good that he's trying to pull back whatever units he can to the main base. He, of course, canceled his third. He needs the minerals. He's going to pull the drones. He's going to try and get us around, but the Marines are going to snipe that Queen and then have a very, very good position in the mineral line. 1 Marine was blocking out the potential surround. This micro looking so good for uThermal.
uThermal so practiced with this early game micro. Snipes off even more of these Lings. That 1 Queen trying to do some damage, but we end up seeing more and more of these drones falling. The Marine count has spiraled too far out of control. uThermal actually leads up the worker count now, 12 to 11. The Spine Crawlers, the last saving grace hope here. uThermal not even gonna let it burrow in time. One of them finally does get the burrow off, but it goes down.
This might not be enough. There's nothing to protect the Spine Crawlers. There are 4 more Marines still making at a time. Drones are actually gonna be the ones targeted down. GG.
uThermal setting the pace of this series 1-0.
That was very quick, but you know, so Reynor, he probably thinks he can defend a regular old 2 racks. I mean, it's still difficult, don't get me wrong, but you know, especially if maybe he sees the drone or something like that, he has the 4 Lings, not just 2. We're not skipping them like a silly Billy. But against the 4 racks, that really is not looking to waste time or you know, potentially follow up. That I think is the worst case scenario, and it's something that uThermal will clearly do, not just once in the series either. And Reynor, he took a chance, okay? He took a really big chance against this Terran.
Yeah, and that's always a hard thing to do versus uThermal. This is actually something I was talking with Cyril about. It's so funny. Everyone seems to have a very strong, very different opinion about who's going to win this. Cyril was saying, you know, I really think that uThermal is one of those players that just has
Reynor's number, or players like a Laser saying, no, I think that Reynor just has a much better ZVT, but it's really interesting seeing their styles clash, I think, a lot of the time.
I agree. I really don't know who to call for this. I think both would be really cool challengers for the rest of the tournament. I think both are, you know, they can be... I mean, I think everyone's kind of like, you know, the Reynors, cute, and like, oh, that, yeah, but like everyone loves uThermal, you know, one of the last Terrans usually in any tournament.
They're both fan favorites at this point.
Yeah, they really are. So like, I'm not attached to either particular storyline, and I don't think either one is substantially better than the other. I think Reynor's, you know, ZVT is what's going to be improved when he went to Korea, so that's very lethal. But uThermal has always been dependable about his TvZ because that's most of the practice he gets. So it's just, I mean, I want it to go to a game 5, but uThermal, I feel, does still have that more on-stage experience. And while Reynor doesn't like show signs of tilting or anything like that, he's really come into it as a pro player. That could be an issue.
Yeah, uThermal been around for a very long time versus Reynor, who's only recently come up, who's, again, showed a lot of really strong confidence in these on-stage matches. We're going to see how he does in game number 2 as he sits down 0-1 against this guy in the top right, the blue Terran player, once again from Team Liquid, sitting up 1-0. It's uThermal. Flew in from Australia. Wow.
That's a long way. In the bottom left, as the red Zerg, he is Reynor. I said red, right?
Yeah, you said Reynor.
I said red Reynor, though.
Red Reynor? Yeah, I think you did.
Okay, cool. What even is
If you are red-blue
red?
colorblind in the audience, we apologize.
If you can't tell, there's 2 different races. Welcome to StarCraft. There's a Terran race and a Zerg race.
Oh. By the way, big thank you to our wonderful observers. Insano going to be observing this one. We've also had Mapu observing throughout the entire event. It's been really, really awesome. They did an awesome job.
Yeah, I mean, some of these EVZs have been really quite difficult to observe.
I'm sorry, dude. You just got fired. You can't do that. Can't type in the chat, man.
It's like Kesso rules, man. Like, get out of here.
Nah, just kidding. But okay, we do have Hatch Gas Pool coming out from Reynor once again. Interested to see if he's going to be a little more cautious about procs and stuff. Just because if there's most Terran players out there, I'd be like, you know what? There's a good chance they won't go for multiple proxies in a row. uThermal's the player that would absolutely just do it 3-4 games in a row.
Especially if he did it on, well, Lost and Found, I mean, has plenty of proxy axes. Again, I think he'd do it on any map, but it would be like going from one that, you know, it's not that short of a map. Maybe you think, okay, maybe not. But then the next map where he has Tirax and it is a shorter map, and you're like, well, you can do it there too. That, you know, that's definitely true.
And Reynor has been scouting around for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, so Reynor last game, there wasn't much else he could have done, I suppose. Like the third base was definitely very quick, but ideally you want to actually get a pool first build against those aggressive openings. And we do see some Terrans, like against a Terran like uThermal, actually just go for pool first, right? But Reynor is feeling still a little confident that he won't either will not be 2x every single time, or he can still have a decent enough defense even if he is unexpectedly.
Ooh, 1 drone kill already, and second drone does turn into a Spore Caller to save its life for a little bit. uThermal throughout the tournament has been so good with that Reaper control. It seems to be a step above most other Terran players.
Yeah, certainly. I've always thought it was. A lot of those Zerg players aren't good.
I think a lot of Zerg players have felt that it was also through their losses.
Yeah, we do have a Hellion opener. So he's planning on Starport. So I don't believe it's going to be Hellion Banshee. I feel like, I mean, it could be. Like, that's still a build, right? But a lot of these times we're seeing Terran players add in the Medivacs, add in just the Liberator harassment, even if they start off with the Hellions first, or at least the third CC for the Starport. But he's setting a Tech Lab, so we'll see if that's going to be swapped over. Just Reaper checking around. Reynor has no substantial plans. He did delay that speed for the third base, but they'll still be timely enough unless uThermal just runs 2 Hellions into the natural. That is always a little bit scary, but these 6-lings, even without speed, like if they touch the Hellions once, they're not going to get the drone kills.
Yeah. Oh, forcing a cancel on one of those creep tumors. Nice job from uThermal, but third base is now also finished up, and the Queen is nearly able to connect that creep entirely over there. We'll see, as we do have actually a Banshee popping on out, so he will be going for that, and third base also on the way.
Right, I guess I should really start specifying, because uThermal has gone for that safety Banshee, I should start specifying that I feel like cloaked Banshee
yeah.
is not really.
And he's not researching cloak.
Yeah, exactly. So he's going for that safety Banshee again, which, funnily enough, like it was this map where he did 2 racks where he didn't get it, and that kind of, lost in the game. But he won the series, at the end. That was against Denver yesterday.
And by the way, the Overlord should be able to notice, hey, that tech lab doesn't have little crazy chemical reactions going on inside of it, so he knows that cloak won't be coming. He can maybe cut a few small little things there.
You think it's chemical reactions? It's that Marine doing the dance.
Oh, yeah. If we've seen that Carbot animation. Well, they're doing the dance to mix up the chemicals.
You're not wrong. They are doing that, aren't they? These little
I
beakers
know
in
my
his hands.
Carbot lore.
Yeah, all right.
Come on,
My
Zach.
bad. I'm sorry.
All right, well, Stim on the way. The Banshee makes its way across the map, and the Hellions are going to be doing the same thing to try and put some pressure on Reynor. And I want to note, I really feel like any Lings that get killed off really makes an extra little impact versus Reynor, just because this kid is so good with his Zerglings. He always finds the little opportunities. So if uThermal can shut down even some of those earlier on, it does kind of limit Reynor's opportunities a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if we're gonna have to harken back, kind of like, same thing we would say about True, and then your Marine would just go mech and like have Hellbats whenever there was a given counterattack option. I don't think it's gonna be. I feel like Reynor's Ling counters are just really, and run bys are just actually the best right now. So I think he's better than True at that, and I don't think uThermal will assume that will be like a simple answer, because there's no simple answers against Reynor. You take care of the run bys, well, his macro is still really, fantastic, and he's gonna get surround. So it's not like as I said, an easy answer, but it could be a considerate one. I think uThermal has been very good. Denver is also doing a lot of run bys, about leaving just enough back at home.
Speaking of run bys, the supply depot is down. A handful of the Marines on the low ground getting taken out. Handful of the Marines on the high ground getting taken out. Even a siege tank getting a little bit low, but he raises the depots, and the Hellions come back home. A lot of Marine losses at the same time in exchange for just Lings. I feel like Reynor's gonna be a little happier with that.
I don't know. I feel like what you really want from that is actually a tank, or to get into the main in a natural, but the Hellions were close enough, so I don't know. I guess that was okay, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like Reynor,
That's close.
The more
That's
I'm
close.
thinking about it, I'm like, is it actually worth it? He's not really on a fantastic worker count. He just made a few more to even get ahead of uThermal. The Hellions are still going to help against further run bys, against something that we note as his trademark, and the Marines are what's going to produce the fastest, so I'm not sure about that.
Okay, well, Banshee is going to be retreating on home as it hasn't found too much damage just yet. A couple more barracks being thrown down over by that third base. Start to create little bits of walls here on Cerulean Fall, just because walls are typically what Terrans kind of want to help defend, especially against such a Ling-heavy player like Reynor.
I wonder what's, okay, so, it was uThermal who vetoed Parasite Lost. I'm just thinking of the walls you can make there.
Ah, yeah.
Okay, cool. And for those interested, Reynor vetoed Acid Plant.
Okay.
Well, we're going to have the push-outs with timing out with 1-1 and combat shields. Reynor is not going to have any of his upgrades, although all have started, so that is a substantial amount of gas and money going into that, and not army. He's down by 20 army, which is actually an okay place if you're assuming you get any type of good angle as a Zerg player, and you have enough
I'm
Banelings.
concerned right now because he doesn't actually have Banelings out yet. Baneling
that's
speed
the
is getting
concern.
close to finishing up, but these Banelings are still not morphing in right now. He knows that the push is here. He is going to have a really hard time pushing back these Marines, I think. Unless Lings come in from the north side, they actually get a surround on these siege tanks. Marines doing their best job to try and save them. One tank goes down, second tank goes down, but so do a lot of Lings, and the Banelings are starting to morph in now.
Okay, they have Bailing speed though, so I think that might have just been good enough. The splits are good, but they're on creep. The Queens, they're going to be able to provide, I feel like they should be targeting the Medivacs, but providing just a tiny little bit of DPS. There they go now, but that is going to be a cleanup. But that was really worrying. The lack of Banelings, if there was 2 Hellbats on those tanks, that is not a pretty fight.
Yeah, he got a very, very good catch there. Looks like we're getting a little bit of latency. Gonna have a quick pause just to make sure that everything is okay. But yeah, that last attack definitely got very, very scary for a moment. And I really do think that uThermal's style is just getting hyper aggressive all the time. But okay, it looks like we're unpausing the game. We'll hop back into it as the players are playing their hearts out right now.
Very fast 4th base. uThermal has been doing pushes, no 3-base or anything like that. But he has been getting some like nicely timed 4th bases. So I feel it's particularly quick, but like long, like as like 2-2 like starts actually. So, but Reynor is also going for an infestation pit now. He's got much faster 2-2 upgrades, and now he has those Banelings, Lings, and Hydras to set up those surrounds.
Extremely fast 2-2 upgrades there for Reynor as they're getting close to finishing up now. uThermal having to back off. His aggression has not been as successful as I think he's wanted it to be thus far. And with the Infestation pick finishing up, there's always that kind of timer in TvZ that you're always worried about as a Terran player of, okay, they start getting up Hive Tech units, they start getting up things like Vipers, etc. I've got to be prepared for that.
Nice coverage. I mean, his creep spread's starting to get a lot out of control. uThermal's trying to beat it back, but it's already at the halfway point on another smaller map.
Killing off a couple of these creep tumors, at least on the way over to his third base, going to make that slightly easier to take, or I guess defend, I should say. We got Reynor moving in with a handful of these Lings, ready to try and shut down a fourth base for a little bit, and actually might be successful if uThermal doesn't send some units there soon.
They're going to go look for the other drop he knows is around. It's unfortunate for uThermal about that push, too, is that not only did he find it without Banelings, and that was supposed to be a good opportunity, he didn't get the Queens. So the Queens are just planning down creep tumors anytime they're taken out. It's not taking too long to replace.
Yeah, also worth noting that most of the creep that uThermal has been cleaning up are on the corners of the map. It's on the far left or the far right, and that does mean trying to push straight down the center, get between the bases or anything. It is a little bit tougher. He can still do it with his main army, but it takes a bit more time. You see him kind of starting to scan, starting to kill off some of these creep tumors, stemming up his army. But Lings gonna be looking to go for a counterattack here.
The tanks see it, the center tower sees it. Does he have enough at home? A single tank not being pounced upon in actually a very good position is gonna get a lot of shots with that +1. And the Marines are gonna have enough time to come back and help out, but 2 tanks, maybe an escape.
Yeah, that's a lot of Lings to trade out for that. Yeah, the Lings are a lot more replaceable, but uThermal is still looking to do a big push out. I guess he does pull uThermal a little bit further back, but uThermal's found an opportunity to move forward with a handful of units and kind of just pull the other half of his army back.
Reynor's starting +3 Carapace while under this aggression.
This is nuts, actually, with the upgrades.
Yeah, uThermal adding on another CC, by the way. We should see some tech labs added on to barracks as well. As if this push doesn't end the game, which I don't believe it will, we might see a transition into real Hive Tech.
Reynor is so insistent on these Link counterattacks, and I mean, it plays true to his style. We'll see how it pans out. Oh, that's a planetary fortress. Even Reynor's Lings cannot make too much happen there. But at the third base, they find 12 worker kills, and partially in thanks to that Sea Shank that's kind of helping out.
Yeah, it looks like most of the Marine cover, a lot of the Marine cover has died on the front push, so maybe uThermal would like to go ahead and pack up what he can. This seems a little bit dangerous. Okay, he's actually rallying everything forward. The rest of his army is coming forward. He's dealt with the aggression. Okay, those Marines are going to kill a base, but my bad. I didn't believe in you guys.
It was already half on hit points from the earlier push, so uThermal able to capitalize on his previous damage, but that's a lot of Banelings. uThermal gonna spot it out the last second. Did he notice he's stimming forward with these Marines? He's trying his best to split them up, and it looks like he's gonna get a very good trade here.
I feel like as long as he made it so they couldn't explode on the planetary and actually kill it, that was gonna be pretty good. Really nice finds from uThermal, really nice tank positioning from uThermal to always be able to respond, but Reynor, even if he's not getting a substantial amount of damage done, he is buying a lot of time, still on 5 bases himself. Even though he just lost one, he got the bottom 2. He's gonna try and trade out as much as he can here. He's gonna have fully upgraded Lings in this game, Fear Dragon. We're actually getting into that Hive territory beyond 12, 13 minutes. It feels like the first time for TvZs in this tournament, so my voice breaks, but that is going to be a scary Reynor. 3-3 Adrenal Glands.
And he's gonna have those Ultras on the way as well as Ultras Cavern gets started up. uThermal, though, I love how aware he is on the map, where he's always seems to have at least a few units in position. He's taken some damage from these Ling run-bys, but I feel like a lot of other Terran players in these situations would have lost so much more. uThermal seems very on point with just defending the harassment.
Not just that, but they would have lost more with their attacks because they don't pay attention, and then they get Baneling stomped. So really nice game here from both players, but Reynor maybe starting to find himself in a bit more comfortable position. He seems to be finding uThermal at those less critical spots with creep, and he's, of course, has a very large bank to help out if he does make a missed call. These Lings are not quite fully upgraded, but they have some support.
A couple of Banelings going to be rolling into that mineral at the same time. uThermal trying to push forward, but the Banelings finish the job. Planetary Fortress goes down, as well as 22 SCVs at the exact same time. uThermal trying to rally forward some units to clean up those Lings, but his push has not been successful yet.
And what's really scary about that, I mean, he has other command centers. He could even lift his main, and that might not be, like, if he rallies to that, that won't be a problem. Actually, he's going to send his other new base over here. But I'm seeing those Ultras, and I see really no Marauders, right? And the tank count only is just starting to regrow now that he has triple tank production, and even they aren't super reliable. against Ultras. But nice find here. Just grabs this one real quick.
uThermal down to 34 workers, though, versus 83. Yeah, the orbitals are going to be very nice for him, but this is getting to be a weird spot as he sniped off 2 bases very, very quickly. But here come the Ultras. Here come the Vipers. The Lings still doing some damage on the outside of the map. Blinding Clouds coming down top of the Siege Tanks. uThermal is kiting back as far as he can, but where is the answer to those Ultras? They don't have kindness plating yet, so it's not the end of the world, but this is a dangerous spot.
He does still have 12 tanks, and as long as they're a little bit spread, the Vipers won't be the easy peasy kill on them, so he can defend. I do strongly believe that, but I don't know about pushing with that. So he's going to try and grow his Liberator count, but those are also positional, and they're also somewhat weak to Vipers. I mean, it'll be a choice. Either blind and cloud the tanks or abduct the Liberators, but I wouldn't even mind if Reynor made like 2 or 3 more Vipers just to make sure he could do everything.
Siege Tanks taking care of the Baneling run by. A couple of Lings trying to make their way forward, and do manage to snipe off one of those Siege Tanks. uThermal kind of just trying to regroup right now, getting up some of those Liberators, reproducing those SEVs, and trying to get his economy back underway. Reynor does still have 1 new base that's actually coming on up, a 2nd new base also being rebuilt. So he's trying to get his own economy. Both these players just kind of giving themselves a little bit of space, but not for long. uThermal is the first one to pounce.
He's got to do this, though, not just to make sure Reynor's kept in check, because even with these hatcheries going down, he still has a bit of a bank, but also to keep Reynor back at home. uThermal is going to be the one, if he can't place down a planetary, you're not going to send an orbital against Reynor somewhere out on the map, right? So expanding should be getting more and more difficult for both players, really. uThermal is always going to have drops out on the map. Very good about that. He's up to quadruple production of Liberators. Notably, has not gotten any upgrades for them, though, and hasn't gotten the range, which that's more of like a TVP thing to really pay attention to, but it can't help if we're going to go for so many.
Reynor also getting up that Greater Spire behind all this, even getting up the +2 missile attack upgrade for those Hydras. So he's starting to play catch up on alternative forms of tech. Planetary Fortress getting burned down by those Ultras, but the SCV repair is good. Siege Tanks both going down, though. That hurts a bit for uThermal, who really wanted to start thinking about maybe pushing across the map again, it seems.
Yeah, I really feel like losing that 4th base cut a lot of momentum. Like, uThermal was already going to be in a tricky spot against the growing Hive presence, but then he's really been cut down on being able to expand even further. Like, that 5th base seemed to go so fast, and suddenly there's no 5th base, right?
Yep.
And without a 5th base, his gas count's actually really hurting. He's just trying to make Marauders, but what about all the other upgrades you need? Maybe some Ghosts. I'm thinking about the building upgrades as well. He's missing a lot of critical elements to a super late game TvZ.
And with the Broodlords now coming on out, this is where things get really, really dicey, I think, for uThermal, as he's going to have to deal with a lot of different forms of tech. And it's not just the Ultras anymore. The Liberators are not going to be enough of a response. He really needs to be able to handle those Broodlords at the same time.
Why is he staying around here? He actually scanned the Broodlords. I'm really shocked that he
definitely knows about them now. I mean, the Liberators just got pulled into them.
I mean, don't push into this as uThermal, obviously, but I don't even know about staying here.
Siege up tanks versus Broodlords, it gets really weird because your own army is going to be killing itself with the Siege tank splash damage.
Yeah, this seems really bold by uThermal.
Whoa, okay, well, he's going to try to stim forward. I think he thought for a moment he could seize a moment in time and get those Broodlords, and maybe he was right, but those Ultras, the Hydras, they're going to clean up everything else, it feels like.
uThermal does not really have enough of a bank to replenish that. The tank's going to take so long. While I did kill the Broodlords, Reynor's have to go back into Broodlords. So these Vikings that are now being produced are not going to look that good. He tries to go ahead and buy some time, maybe get a hatchery, and maybe he gets boost. He does not. So that's not going to happen. This one's also seen, and uThermal, I think that might have been a killing blow there for him.
I feel like that was a kind of decisive moment in this game as we end up
Lordy.
seeing, oh my God.
Who knew?
Reynor's economy has just been stellar ever since he shut down that 4th base in comparison to uThermal, who's still just trying to do some counter damage. It's not even drones over here to kill, but he's doing his best. He's trying to hang in there, and uThermal plays well from behind, but this is pretty behind, Zombie Grub.
We haven't really talked about Reynor not only having 3-3 for his Lings and Ultras, but he manages to get +3 missile as well started. Like, everything in his army is so upgraded.
Reynor just plays such a fast-paced style. It feels like he's just focused on all this aggression, these run-bys and everything, but he's just got such immaculate macro behind it. He's always thinking about those next steps.
Yeah. I guess key things here is that Reynor just, like, he can't lose grasp, and it's going to be really hard for him to do so. He's banking so much that even if a hatchery snipe goes down, he barely even feel it. It'll be like not even a bee sting, all right? He'd have to really start losing multiple hatcheries, get overconfident, all in, kind kind of, not really, but like attack with his army and then take a catastrophic loss, which I actually don't really see happening unless his Vipers die and then Liberators do their thing. But without Ghosts, yeah, I don't know if he's gonna take on this Hive army.
This is a bit tough, but I guess I do still see an opportunity maybe for him to try and make this work. Because again, like you said, Reynor is the one that has to push in, and pushing into a siege up well-defended Terran can still be a bit difficult. Reynor is trying to push forward with some of these Ultras, ends up taking a lot of damage there. uThermal not really able to continue pushing there. And uThermal's getting closer and closer to maxed out again.
He is, yeah. So he didn't even bother going back onto tanks, which I always like to see like a few tanks, and I mean like 4, just to help against like Ling surrounds and run-bys. But no, he's using positioning very well. Walls here, Liberators over there. Where's the rest of his army? I know he's got more.
I'm a little worried about those Vipers, though, because that's the downside of being in this kind of choked up spots, which really is helpful for the Ultras, is your army is oftentimes also choked up and can be easily blinding clouded.
Yeah, that's true. uThermal, I mean, he's gotten that 5th base back down, and even though there's... Like, Reynor is using the 2 attack paths that uThermal does actually have good defense on. And they're the most obvious ones. I'm not saying he's wrong to do it, but, like, the 6th base is where it's really going to be hard, I think. Right now, uThermal is able to defend the 3rd base and the 5th, but I don't know about the 6th. And again, his army quality might still not be up to snuff.
Yeah, it looks like Reynor's going to hit from 2 sides. Remember, he's got an 8K mineral bank and a 3.5K gas bank, so he can afford to make some trades. He just needs to find ones that are at least halfway decent, so uThermal can't just counterattack. Here we go. Lings and Bailings running on forward. The Hydra's taking care of the production. Couple of SCVs go down, but overall, uThermal, he loses so many of the Liberators. He kills off a base, but I don't think it was worth it for him.
Oh, no. Again, like, the base losses just do not matter to Reynor. He'd have to lose 5, 6, all of his bases, literally. And then maybe he'd start to be concerned. He's going to lose a decent number of drones, but losing the Liberator count, probably even more devastating than losing that tank count earlier. He's down to 5. He can barely afford to make everything on that production tab. This is... I mean, Reynor is not going for he can't quite go for the killing blow, but he is like slicing off an arm here, a hand there, a foot over there. It's not looking good.
I think he's gonna go for the jugular now, Zombie Grub, as he moves forward. Hydras, Corruptors, well, not actually quite enough over here. There's some Ultras on the right-hand side, but they get picked off by some of the few remaining Liberties. Corruptors starting to get picked off. Reynor has to replace this army supply. 7 Ultras in production. I don't think uThermal's back in this game, but that was a big blow against Reynor.
Yeah, there's a lot of Banelings still left over. He's kiting to the best of his ability. The Corruptor's gonna help take out those medevacs as well, even a Blind Cloud.
These Stims, he just doesn't even have time to heal up. The Banelings finally find some connections, but some of these Ultras are starting to go down. I cannot believe it, but I feel like uThermal's hanging in there by a thread.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little gross to look at. I mean, I was going to say, when you lost his Liberators, like, what if he had a missile turret line? We didn't have the minerals for that, so that's just not going to happen. uThermal has always been low on bank, not a very consistent economy, and some pretty bad trades.
He has depleted Reynor's bank, though. It's down to 200 or 300 gas. He's continuing to be aggressive, and there aren't really a lot of units to take care of those medevacs right now. The Hydra count has also fallen a bit, so he can retreat. Yeah,
and funnily enough, what usually kills a Terran player who starts to get a little like, oh, I can defeat Hive units? Yes. is Lings, but he never went to like 15 ghosts, and no bio. So if Reynor does run out of gas, has to rely on pure Ling reinforcements, uThermal's army can be good against that, but he still has all these Ultras to dive through, and he's still gonna have to try and get another base, and that's the one I said was gonna be the hardest, because that's where a Lings around, a fully upgraded Lings for 10 seconds will kill that.
Yeah, that is absolutely tough. The nice thing for uThermal, though, is that base is going to be up in the far top left-hand corner of the map. So it's one of the potentially easier to defend bases just because he's going to have a little more time. Maybe if he gets a sensor tower up on the top. I would love a sensor tower actually on that forward base on the far left.
Yeah, it's funny, though, because even if he gets one, he might not be able to respond. This base goes down. The other one's lifted anyways.
Yeah, this is definitely becoming more and more of a tricky situation for uThermal, as it is going to get shut down. The top left-hand base having to retreat, gets lifted up, and is going to return, but there's a Hydra actually waiting for him. The Ultras continue to do damage. uThermal, kind of a desperation push over here. He's got to make some damage happen to not just the economy, but the army of Reynor.
He's down a lot in supply, and that's not just because he's down in workers. He's down 50, basically, army supply. He's just going to try and make Micro work to the best of his ability. Another base goes down. Now, that does leave him with 3 orbitals. I think the one extra command center was going to die eventually, too. And, hey, Mules can do a lot, but he needs to actually get them, like, on location and then somehow deal with Reynor's army and Reynor's Remax.
Oh, loses the command center. That was in the far top left-hand corner of the map. Even starting to lose a lot of that production. Reynor seems like he's finally getting a firm hold of this game once again. A Ling counterattack over here in the top right-hand side, over by that third base. The orbital command already low on hit points, and uThermal is on his last leg. He's gonna stim forward to snipe off a hatchery, but again, he needs to kill the army, not just these hatcheries.
He's gonna put himself on a creep in any scenario where it seems ideal to counter, and that's just an extra chance for Reynor's Banelings to connect or his Lings to get the wraparound.
His army is also stimmed up halfway to death right now. Ultra's trying to come in for a flank. The Queens are here to transfuse the Ultras. uThermal putting up a hell of a fight in game number 1 from very, very far behind. The adrenal glands Lings come in and force the liftoff. uThermal sitting over 100 supply down, but he's still putting up a fight.
He still has a chance? No, you think so? I don't know about that. He might.
I'm not feeling it as much right now in Zombie Gun, but he is putting up a hell of a fight.
No, he really is. He's showcasing why he's such a good Terran. There's so many things to talk about in this very, very long game, going on 26 minutes now. But he might think that there is less of a bank and less of an army because he has sniped like quite a few hatcheries, I would say, in this game.
He's done
but
damage,
there we
but
go.
Yeah, realizes Reynor takes game number 1 off the veteran. Playing true to his style, just really, really good with a lot of those constant Ling counterattacks, getting up to that late game with just a really immaculate play throughout that entire game.
There were 1 or 2 moments where it was scary. The Banelings against that first push, and then like another pretty decent one, I feel, where his Lings weren't quite doing a lot of damage, but in the run bys. But for the most part, he was in comfortable positions, I would say. Like, even when he lost his bases, that was a point where he did have 1,500 minerals and a pretty good army, so that wasn't even... that would usually be devastating. I don't think it really was for Reynor, and towards the last 10 minutes of the game, really, you could feel uThermal just... the hope was dying out in the last 2. Well, Clear is over.
I do want to note, though, when you talk about mentality in those kind of games, oftentimes when you're in a leading position and you're very clearly attempting to close out that game, and you just can't seem to find it, and you're taking these tries, you're like, I can afford to take these, but I just can't seem to actually kill this guy. He's sticking in there until he's down to 60 supply to 200. Those are those games that kind of make you feel like, oh my God, it's such a pain to kill this guy. You have to work so hard for every victory.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, that could be really tiring, and that could just be really, in a way tilting, not like I'm gonna lose the next game tilting, but just like, okay, like seriously. This is too difficult. Maybe I wasn't as ahead as I thought I was. We start second guessing how the game really went. It can't be big, but this is just, it's tied up. That first game was so fast, and that second one was so long that I actually forgot there was a first game. So
yeah. What's also nuts about that second game was it was so action-packed. I feel like there were barely 30-second segments. I don't actually even know if you can look at that game from beginning to end, if after the first little skirmishes, there was even 30 seconds where there weren't at least some combat units getting engaged against each other.
Not with Reynor's style, right? Like, he was always trying to use his Lings, so he's very good at it. And while uThermal seemed pretty excellent against the, catastrophic damage that Reynor can do, ultimately still lost out in the macro game.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're hopping into game number 3. Looks like we're moving on to Blue Shift on top of that, blue player. From Team Liquid, he is, of course, your Terran player, uThermal.
In the bottom left, as the Reds are getting a point on the board, he is Reynor.
Repping that Team Exceed Esports.
Yeah.
Going for a pool first this game. Okay. Now, a lot of those times, those pool first, they can be a little bit of preparation if you're concerned about some kind of early proxy racks pressure or something, but it also has a lot of value in being able to snipe off an SCV building commands or just kind of be annoying to the Terran player.
Yeah, I don't want to say there's good reason for Zergs to always do this, but it is one of those things where it would help out defensively, and you can use it offensively.
I think it's good to just be a Zerg player that mixes it in. I know
Yeah.
for a really long time, Snoot was saying during kind of the era, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, of all of the proxy racks pressures constantly coming out from Terran players, Snoot was a big advocate saying, oh, you know, these Zergs they keep going to hatch gas pool, and if you do that every single game, of course you're going to get proxied.
Yeah, I remember him talking about that. Yeah. It is going to be 6 Lings, so, you know, if uThermal goes for that, there's like a weird like mind game going on where like uThermal's like, well, he might think I'm going to 2 racks, so he'll make the pool first, and then he'll send the Lings across, so I'll keep the Marine at home, and it's, well, you keep 1 Marine at home, it will help out against the 2 Lings, maybe even the 4, not against the 6. The 6 would kill it and then still get the SCV and do some pretty good chip damage on the command center. Shouldn't kill it though.
Okay, where is uThermal going to send that Reaper? Does he send it straight across the map? Does he play it a little bit safe and keep it just at a choke point, ready to intercept Lings? Overlord spots out that Reaper. That's very important because now Reynor knows it was starting to move out. Oh, he stops it just inside the Overlord vision. I think the Overlord actually moving back and he sees the Reaper still there. Oh, man. And that actually is going to allow Reynor to keep these Lings alive for a little longer, but they're not going to find the value I think they were looking for.
No, they aren't. But it was cute, you know, because like uThermal was hoping that he would if he did have the Lings. So uThermal doesn't know there's Lings out here.
Yeah.
If he did, then he's going to lose them because the Reaper will just chase every one of them down. But Reynor knew that he knew that, and well, now we're in this awkward situation where the Reaper's not getting any damage done nor any scouting done, but he can't actually move out because then Reynor would see it, and he wouldn't get the stop in the command center. He would get the SCV kill.
It's a bit of a standoff where they're both kind of sacrificing what they really wanted to have happen in exchange for just playing a little bit safer. Reynor is going to be able to finally send those Lings in, but the SCV has already completed that command center. It's turning into an orbital. The Hellions are about to pop out, and the Reaper going to be getting a later scout out on what's on the other side of the map.
It was nice for the Lings to see that it was a starport before a 3rd command center. Don't quite get the SCVs though.
Well, Lings are all going to get picked off here as they die their final death, hold position. The Reaper on the other side of the map did get a confirmed scout, I believe, on that 3rd base as well. So uThermal pretty much getting a scout on everything he would need to see. Got 4 Lings just still hiding there for Reynor. Of course, Reynor would be the guy that would just keep some Lings on standby, ready to move in another time.
Even a few might distract at a very key moment. So uThermal, he has a lot of builds he's been doing off of the 1-1-1, right? The every single tech structure. So while Reynor's maybe taking out the cloaked Banshee I was talking about in the first game, he's probably thinking of, like, for instance, what uThermal's done to now 2 Zergs with a lot of damage done, the Cyclone thing, drop, and then, of course, Hellbat attacks. In this case, it is a Hellbat attack.
Yep.
So a medevac coming out of the starport. Armory is going to complete here. Reynor only has Lings against it, but if he has enough Queens with good micro, he can also deal with this.
Yeah, one of those mules getting target fired down by those Lings, but here we go. We have the Hellbats moving into the natural. There's a handful of Lings. These Queens very close to having some transfuse energy. Lings trying to get in on top of some of the Marines. Medevac actually boosted around, trying to stay alive, but it is going to get taken out in exchange for a handful of the Lings. Now uThermal does not have the sustainability it otherwise had with a push.
He's going for the Queens. There was maybe an opportunity to send 2 Hellbats into the drone line, at least force them off, but he wants the Queens. Gets us around, and the second one is going to continue getting a lot of Zerglings as he's now in the mineral line. 2 transfuses left, and now it's gone, so the Queens are gone. This snowballed. This was good.
This is doing a lot of damage now with the Hellbats still alive and most of the Queens taken care of. This is a dangerous spot for Reynor,
Really
but
good.
more Queens are about to pop. Second Queen pops out over here at the natural. More Lings getting devastated, but the Hellions are nearly on their last leg.
Oh, that was a last-second chance fuse right there. 2 more Hellbats. Actually, no, 4 more Hellbats. That is a little scary. It probably would have been scary if they were Hellions, because Reynor is going to try and counter now. But, you know, how is uThermal going to know that?
Yeah, this is kind of interesting also because now we have the tech lab finished up on that starport so you can get up some of those cloak banshees. And now Reynor is going to be able to get inside that natural. Not a lot of defenses here. There's a single Hellbat getting hell position with all the SCVs, but 3 SCVs going down. Lost mining time at that natural. uThermal is really getting forced into a position where he needs to get more damage done.
I was worried he hadn't built a Spore Crawler, but there is one in the natural. Finally, the Lings are cleaned up, but they definitely killed a lot of SCVs and a couple of Mules. This Hellbat attack probably not going to be able to do equal amount of damage.
Yeah, but I wonder if the Banshee can make its way over to the main base or something. The Hellbats are actually kind of leading the charge there. The Banshee not being detected right now. Spore Crawler reburrowing in a better position. The Hellbats have done a lot of damage to some of those Queens. The Banshee walking in range of that Spore Crawler. It was getting detected for a little bit. It's almost out of energy, though.
I'm really uThermal's going to go back for the Queen, and he does get one of them, but there was another scenario where I thought he might even have time to transform them back into Hellions.
He has only 4 energy left over. He's gonna maybe be able to get one more Queen here, but that might set up for the follow-up Banshee and more Hellbats moving into that third base. uThermal is just relentless with this aggression.
He really is, and the Hellbats are, like, every single time I think they're gonna be too slow to catch anything. They seem to catch a very, very good amount. And the second Banshee comes in. It looks like Reynor was predicting this, so he's gonna try and bring the Spore Crawler forward.
But
he stopped it halfway.
How many Spore Crawlers does he actually have now? He's 2. And that does mean if he's trying to defend 3 different bases, with some drones trying to mine at that third, there's an opportunity for uThermal to continue the damage. But yeah, another Spore Crawler about to finish up. It seems like with more link counterattacks, he's also keeping uThermal's reinforcements occupied.
This is such a funny game now. Like, usually the Hellbat thing is kind of 1 and done, or maybe 1.5, like the 2 or 4 extra Hellbats. But this has gone on for 2.5 minutes.
94 lings dead at
is,
this stage. Wow.
This is so crazy. It delayed everything for both of these guys. Reynor has a delayed layer, and as such, anything off that layer, like centrifugal hooks, for instance. uThermal had to delay his extra production facilities because he had to keep making Hellions, not just because the aggression was working, but because if it ever stopped, then Reynor's 20 lings would kill him. He'd have no production, would be screwed. So kind of forced into a weirder game. Article really got ahead, but I feel like uThermal might have, with faster upgrades, is going to have to wait for the 2 medevacs anyways to actually utilize that stim. We'll see what Reynor can do.
Yeah, do you feel like uThermal's in a bit of an all-in-ish position, though, without a third?
Oh, yeah, you're right. He doesn't have a third. I just assumed that it was there. So you're right about that. As soon as I was like, wait a second, you brought it up. He's going for extra 2 command center, or barracks. And, well, now I gotta, like, it's not about his position in the long game. It's how good this follow-up 2-base attack is going to be, and how much is Reynor expecting it?
Okay, well, Banshee's going to be moving forward. I assume that one of the Banshees is going to get picked off. The second Banshee also very much trapped. He's going to try and trade out for as many drones as possible, but he also does get some decent scouting information, moves into the third, into the natural, saw a little bit of the main base, saw the double Evo chambers, and I really wonder, is he just going to be making the big push out with Stim and when 1-1 finishes up, or is he going to wait for combat shields?
He'll do it maybe like in 10 seconds. I mean, it's dangerous though if you move out even expecting your upgrades to finish when you're sieged and they already have a surround set up. Well, then you look like a fool. So you might play safe.
Oh, he gets the Depot raise up in time. Bought enough time with those Marines on the front line and totally calculated, I'm sure. Oh. Reynor's mortal enemy.
So
remaining Hellbats.
Yeah, it really is. Reynor probably has an idea of what's going on by now. Like, he's like, I mean, the game was so action-packed that the third CC not being down location was forgivable for a while, but at this point he's got to be like, okay, you don't have one. I get what you're doing here. So many of these 2-base attacks now do come with a double upgrade, so it's not easy to read from that. But Reynor knows he does have Baneling speed. He will have his own upgrades. uThermal's going to try and time this out with combat shields. He's got some really good places to put his tanks, and of course the rocks aren't broken down.
I feel like another 20 or so seconds, okay, until combat shields finishes up. Hellbat's going to be leading the charge. He's getting some high ground information scouting. The Marines about to get that combat shield upgrade as they start to move forward on to creep just in time. Sporker are going to push some of these units back. The Banelings coming rolling on forward, trying to push back any of the Marines that get a little too overeager.
Yeah, this is nice for both sides, but actually the big engagement goes down. Reynor thinks he has an opportunity. Actually, the Marines weren't pulled back in time, and everything is taken out, or almost everything is. The medevac's the only thing that lives, but uThermal's not done with this push yet.
And he needs to get some damage done. Reminder, he does not have that third base. He can do the Terran thing and be Nomad style, lift up that main command center at some point, trying to turn into a third for a little bit, but that is not a long-term solution. He has to get damage done here now.
That was a really bad sign for him to see that the creep actually did go back down.
Oh, the link run by once again. Reynor, he finds it every single game, no matter what. And here we go. SDV is being pulled off the line. Not many Marines here to defend. A tank comes out, but the damage has already been done. It stints uThermal's production for a little bit.
Yeah. That was a really good run by this time. It got a lot of SCVs. It had access to the main, even if it didn't quite go for it. And of course, stalled out the reinforcements. And this is a type of game where you need to be rallying forward. uThermal, I don't think he can push past this point. I think that's gone with the rest of his tanks.
In a game where uThermal was on a timer, Reynor finds an opportunity to buy even more time for himself and put himself in a better spot. With +2 Carapace on the way, Hydra's coming out in larger numbers, Lings looking to get into another position to do another run by or pick off more reinforcements. If Reynor gets another run by here, uThermal is going to have absolutely only one final push left in him.
Yeah, he's being denied with the run by, but he can come from behind and help out the main push. Now he's got some Hydras to help against the Liberators. Here we go.
He comes in with the Lings, he comes in with the Banelings, and he comes in with the Hydras. uThermal running out of units very, very quickly, and those Banelings just seem to be more than plentiful enough to clean up that push. uThermal loses his main force, loses a lot of his hopes in this game. He might have some armies left over, but honestly, it's just medevacs at this point.
If there's any more Marines, all those Queens are dead and the Liberators still live. uThermal does have some reinforcements that were back at home, so his army supply is actually in favor. This is one of those pushes where it seems like with Reynor at 4 bases, 60 workers should eventually just be like, well, time is on my side, right? But, you know, maybe you're not injecting as much, maybe the Lings can't have enough time to build the Banelings, and suddenly, what looks to be a Reynor momentum game, uThermal does take. So we do have to always keep that in mind, especially because he also has 2-2 upgrades now against what is, well, now 2-1.
No, that's a really good point. Reynor doesn't have as much of an army supply as you'd expect after all of that, but it really is just maybe about those Queens being on the front line, helping to defend, all those small little things adding up. Here we go, uThermal pushing on forward on creep. He's trying to dodge away from those Banelings. He loads up to the medevacs at the last second to try and keep him alive. Hydras trying to take out the low health medevacs. Marines just gonna be elevated over to the main vessel. The Liberator get some damage done.
I think that might have been too much, leaving his tanks alone to be swamped. Good focus power on the Banelings, but uThermal without a third CC being built, I don't think lifting his main command center will be good enough, even though he has kept up with the upgrades. But he's not ready to tap out of this game yet, despite seeing how good the economy still is for Reynor, despite seeing how many more like higher tech units are on the way. Everyone's like, no, maybe I can still do this.
I love his resilience in this game, and I think it's one of those things that it's gonna start paying dividends later on in the series. If not this game, it's gonna be paying off in the next game, and then the game after that. But here we go, Reynor starts moving forward. Ling's gonna get denied by siege tanks and some Marines, and Reynor looking for another base. He feels like he's defended the push, and he's correct, uThermal forced all the way back home.
So in the same way that the heavy aggression can sometimes be like, oh, suddenly Reynor doesn't have enough Banelings or Queens, something like that, it flips when uThermal has to take a break. So Reynor suddenly has the time to slap down creep tumors, although I don't know what his Queen count's at. It's actually only at 3. So the ones that he's lost in a couple of these last pushes were supposed to be the ones to respread creep. So that's a little less of an issue, and that is a very important issue.
Quick lift up on those supply depots. Siege tank is going to be able to push back some of those Lings, but the third base, or should I say the main base that was floated over to a third, going to be a bit vulnerable. Even though he doesn't get the damage done there, he pulls the entire army back from uThermal once again. He snipes off a siege tank, kills off 3 SCVs there. This is still brutal damage for uThermal to take.
Yeah. His army, I mean, it's you know, almost close to even, but actually being behind the Terran players is usually a great sign. The rocks have been broken down as well, so we have more opportunities for Reynor to get even better engagements, and then that third base is never going to be really protected. It doesn't have the wall to help it out.
Oh, that's a lot of dead SCVs there at that third base. uThermal fully all in at this point. 17 workers, 2 orbital commands, still falling in the worker count, and the creep spread is still just annoying enough to buy an extra 20 or 30 seconds of time that uThermal just does not have.
Another pair of rocks being broken down, so that's a full surround right there. And Reynor's already set up for it. Look at
Reynor is ready to pounce, ready to seize. Game number 3, and the lead in this series. Liberators doing their best. uThermal's doing his best, but Reynor has too much. GG, Reynor goes up 2-1.
Wow, that was a literal full surround.
If you can't end the game one way, Zombie Grub, you just got to do everything right in that final trade.
That was styling, but what a...
Look at Reynor's face. He doesn't even look that happy. Or he's just like, God, this guy doesn't die. It's absurd. But all right, guys, we're going to be hopping to a short break. Give these players a moment of time to kind of relax and try and figure out what to do as we get ready to move to game number 4. We'll see you guys in a bit. thank you so much for your patience, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to move into Game 4 of this best-of-5 series. Only one of these players can move on to that last little spot, that coveted spot in that semifinals match. Our next map is Fracture Zombie Grub. Give me your thoughts. Tell me a little bit how you feel like this one is going to go.
Can you just like wait 10 seconds and let me see if like SCV's like the base?
I should have. Okay, you know what? We'll rewind. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys are ready to find out who is gonna be taking game number 4. Will it be the man sitting up 2-1 already, or will it be a tied-up series from this guy spawning down here, the bottom right-hand corner of the map, top of the blue Terran player from Team Liquid? He is uThermal.
In the top left, as the red Zerg up 2-1, he is Reynor.
And while Zombie Grub, as much as we were also uncertain, is uThermal going to go for the proxy? Seems like Reynor may be a bit concerned about that Fracture, a very small map.
Yeah, I think you have to be. It's that weird thing where it's like it's so expected is it really useful, but it is seriously a concern because it doesn't have to be the 4 racks. It could be the 2 and then like a bit of more of a macro game. So I like it. I think this is going to be an action-packed map no matter what, even if it goes to like 3 or 4 bases, just because it's such a small map. And these guys have been constantly dueling each other since, they get a nice macro game, maybe, not even, and then it's just constant action.
Game 1 may have been the only short game, but it really does seem like anytime these two guys get locked in battle, it really does turn into a big old weird macro game. That is so difficult to have happen on a map like Fracture. This could be, it will be a big turning point if uThermal, who's been able to hold on in a lot of these games that he's been sitting down for a lot of the game, if he's able to tie this series up, I really feel like he's still gonna have some momentum going in a lot in his favor.
Yeah, I agree. Nice SCV scout. I'm really happy uThermal bothered SCV scouting because we talked about what the Terrans could do on a short map. We really should have talked about what also the Zergs can do.
Oh yeah.
So I like that a lot.
All right, Reaper gonna be making its way forward, and of course, having that SCV scout, he knows that there's some lings out of the map. He knows that it's a pool first opening, but the Reaper still gonna be moving around. He's actually going after trying to seek out some of those Zerglings, and he is gonna be able to find them, but the ling's gonna be able to get in on top of that SCV, at least delaying this command center by a little bit.
It's still kind of annoying to play the Ringer on the Rosie game with the SCV, but I think what really, is great if you can actually truly deny the lings access is that they don't see what's building in the main. Now, they only saw the factory, which is really not the whole tale, and they would love to get back up there to see if it was, the starport before 3rd CC again, but not gonna be able to do that.
Oh, interesting. Actually gonna leave that Reaper at home for a little bit. No, he's gonna decide to send it out. I was wondering, does he think there are 6 lings out there or something? But
yeah.
No. It's gonna move out. There are actually 2 more lings that make their way across the map, but that command center should finish up in time, and uThermal gonna be able to get some scouting information.
It is that starport before 3rd command center, but it's also going to be, I brought this up last game, it's the Cyclone.
Yeah.
That so far does like a, I didn't watch his groups entirely, but I'm going to be like the real extreme after and be like, it's 100% win record, Ravi, all right? And the 2 games that I saw it being used, it did a lot of damage, so might just happen here, and it's weird because it's not the most unorthodox attack, and especially by now it's been on enough high-profile matches that the Zerg should be very aware that uThermal will do it, yet it's still seems to always catch them at that right moment where they just don't have enough.
We'll see how Reynor is prepared for it. Now, of course, Reynor has had a lot of time, and there's not actually that many players left in the tournament, so this is that time where you're sitting around during your breaks, you're watching the other games, you're talking with other players saying, okay, you fought uThermal, we're good friends, you'll tell me what he was doing, right? This is where he might kind of have some more of those plans sort of figured out, but when is he going to catch his first glimpse at what he's up against?
I really want to talk about what the BlizzCon standings are, like depending on who's going to win, but I've not found a moment. Like,
yeah, this series has been so action-packed. It's there hasn't been a moment's time for us or the players to really rest for any time.
And it's like, well, why not? Why not now? Because this is one of those weird ones where like you have to explain so many different steps. Basically, uThermal is still like potentially for points, I believe, but like Reynor has to actually win.
Reynor's currently in 9th place, so he really needs to make sure he can tie up kind of his point or his standings, I should say, with Lambo and start to get back into position to qualify.
So Lambo wants, I believe, uThermal to lose, and then he wants Time and Render just not to win the tournament, basically.
Yeah.
So that's what he's maybe like, you know, sitting on the sidelines waiting for. But now we do have that attack commence, and this is not just about this attack. Don't forget, there's Hellions going over to the right side. Where are there any more Lings? There's actually Queens with the Hellions. They ran in, they ran back out.
Ooh, Cyclone unloads in the main base. That Medevac's still alive. Handful of Marines also getting some damage on. Finding a beautiful position inside that mineral line, but the Medevac getting very low. Ooh, 2 Hellions managed to make their way into the natural. The other 2 Hellions getting blocked out. The Medevac's still alive. Hellions getting taken out. Reynor has barely lost many workers here. He's lost some units, but now finally losing 3-4 workers. uThermal committed a bit to making more damage happen here.
At least he gets some workers. I was afraid that was going to be nothing.
Yeah.
That was a really nice defense. What was so weird about the last 2 times uThermal used this build was that he was going up against someone who was trying to transition into roaches. So they didn't have like a lot of speedy units. But this time Reynor was all Lings, and he also had a wall.
Whoa, okay, that actually could have been a potential game over situation. But still, not that many Marines over here. It's actually just 1 Marine on the side of the wall. 3rd base getting delayed a little bit. Bailey's getting started up. More Lings in production. Zombie Grub. This Reynor is already setting up 2-1. This is a dangerous spot.
I don't think it's game over, but this is actually a really cool idea from Reynor.
Cancels them.
As soon as that tank. So I was gonna say uThermal usually has a pretty solid follow-up defense. He seems to always have like a tank in that right moment, and that was certainly the right moment. But that was almost cool. But yeah, Reynor had that nice wall, and then uThermal, thankfully for him, also had a wall. That was an obvious scout in the 3rd CC. You know, 2-base all in this time, which is already like kind of a tricky thing to do at this level. But it can sometimes work out, of course. I like to see a 3rd CC.
Yeah.
And, that was dangerous, but I think Reynor did a very good job defending.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what you think, because Reynor also, he was morphing in those Baileys. It really seemed like he wanted to commit to that, but he was also making Lings in production and just kind of powering out more units, which, yeah, if you know what, you can cancel the Banelings, but those Lings that could have been drones, he's just sitting on 40 or so workers, 47 workers for a little bit longer. He can't really find too much utility with those unless he gets another Ling run by, right?
It's weird though, because you watch Reynor play, he'll sacrifice Lings, but he's already also sacrificed something else. For instance, he doesn't get speed that quickly, so though he makes 6 Lings and doesn't do very much with them, he still gets like a really well-timed 3rd hatchery. In this case, he actually heavily delayed Lair because he figured he didn't really need it, perhaps.
Yeah.
Because he thinks he's still going to be able to get centrifugal hooks in time. So instead of like a typical 4 or 5 minute Lair, I think it was like a 6-minute one, like maybe even later.
Yeah, I mean, it's only just now going to be finishing up at around 7:30. But uThermal just, he lost so many units during the earlier push, and even against that kind of Ling attack, kind of threatening him, you saw he didn't really have that many Marines, so it is a little bit before he can really get aggressive. Combat Shields and 1-1 are both finishing up, though. 1-1 for Reynor, just a little bit further behind. It doesn't seem like uThermal's going to have an opportunity to immediately push out, but he does still have some presence on the map with those Medevacs and Marines.
This feels like one of the longer Fracture games I'm about to cast. I'm like, how does the mid-game work here?
I know, Fracture you just don't see many super late game situations on this map because those small rush distances make it so difficult, so volatile. Usually one player will seize a massive advantage and the game just kind of ends from there pretty quickly.
Well, you have rocks to break down to allow for sort of those wider surrounds, and Reynor's already on top of at least one of the rock walls. Now has to start worrying about defending against uThermal's drops. You know, uThermal can be somewhat of an, you know, you can kind of read into his mid-game play. His openers have all been very different, so you can't, you know, guarantee that. But, you know, he always does, like, the drops right after whatever he opens with. And he does wait for the upgrades for probably the 2 tanks, and then he does push. So, Reynor, I mean, he's already on top of the worker count. His job right now is to make army and try and buy time if he needs to wait for those upgrades.
Yep, Reynor getting up his own 2-2 upgrades, but here we go. uThermal starting to push on to creep. He needs to heal up some of these Marines as they start to push on forward and clean some of that up. Reynor looking for the opportunity, but oh my God, is uThermal prepared? He loses 1 siege tank, but that's a lot of Lings.
It's so, like, I really feel like you have to reevaluate how Reynor's Ling usage like really affects him overall, because as you were saying, like we were talking about previously, feels like maybe you don't have enough drones. Well, he does. And maybe that was worth just a single tank for all of those lings.
It's so hard. Reynor it feels like he just doesn't play like many other Zerg players out there these days. But all right, Hydra's getting ready to move forward, making sure those medevacs don't sort of overstep their boundaries. Ling's finding another opportunity, but no, uThermal. So on point the last second with that lift up. Doesn't have too many units back over here to defend the third base. And the Marines are going to be able to handle some of that, but still taking some SCV losses. And Hydra is trying to move forward, but maybe overstepping their boundaries.
Yeah, because he had to respond to that, he didn't clean up those lings that fast. So 11 SCVs instead of just the 5 that it was looking like. Reynor, though, he's down half the army supply, but that's a lot of creep spread to still get through. And their upgrades are going to be actually in favor of Reynor. So that army supply is not looking too great. We'll see how the positioning goes.
All right, he's trying to get this really nice round, coming in from multiple angles. Hydras and Bailings and Lings on the left and the north side. uThermal rallying in even more units, buying himself a little bit of time, making sure he's all healed up. Those Marines sitting nice and healthy. 2-2 about to finish up also here for uThermal. Then Carapace upgrade already finished up there for Reynor.
This is really powerful.
He's pretty well spread out, I would say, with the siege tanks. The Marines also getting a really nice spread. It's pretty difficult for Reynor to take a good engagement here, but it's also difficult for uThermal to push too much further forward.
Once he chooses a path, he just opens up to an even better surround, right? So it can be very difficult. He's waiting for that creep spread to recede. Also note that uThermal does not have a fourth base, so if this is entirely swamped, his macro game would be in absolute jeopardy. But it's looking good for him.
Lings over here, they do set off the alarm, but hey, uThermal didn't get the depot raised up in time this time. And now he does manage to save his main base from the threat of those Lings and cleans those Lings up pretty quickly as he continues to push on forward with such patience.
Yeah. Patience is often rewarded. He's still up with that very good army supply. He's trying to make the best use out of his Marines while just leaving the tanks where they are, so he's not really ever caught in that weird, I'm trying to unsiege and siege hop. No, he's finding the positions with the Marine tags, the Marine pokes, and then he very calmly moves on with the tanks once the creep is gone.
Okay, but here we go. Reynor feels like this is the moment to shine. Big stim up here from uThermal. The siege tanks have mostly been taken care of by the 360 surround, but are there enough Banelings left over to handle all of these Marines? Zombie grub, uThermal senses blood in the water.
I think he might just be right to go in and stim up onto creep. He's going to find the Morphin Banelings. The rest of the Banelings can't even touch the Marines as they are just targeted down. And Reynor, not enough creep spread there. Too good a position from our Terran player. We are going to go to that ace match.
Patience is rewarded. uThermal with the resilience, with the patience, sniping down the Baneling nest and getting himself situated for a game number 5. Reynor, he's trying to stay resilient himself right now, just like uThermal showed him earlier, hoping for the Miracle Bane nest. Those are pretty damn good, but even if uThermal gets fully cleaned up here, he has done so much damage, and I don't think he's gonna get cleaned up here. Zombie Cup, GG, uThermal ties up the series.
What a sick series. At one point, I was like, is Reynor just the better macro player? Is the uThermal gonna have to rely on some cheeky beginnings? But nope. That was a very well executed 3-base push, sir. It wasn't entirely a full 20-minute macro game, but what map Fracture would not lend itself to that anyways. That was just really nicely executed, really good positioning, very good patience. And Reynor, his go-to move whenever he's like, okay, I actually can't take on that army, is to run by, but it's so hard to do that on a small map. They just actually send the army that's in the middle of the map back home. It takes like 5 seconds, and they just come back before you can do anything about it.
It's such a weird situation, Fracture. You feel like, well, I can get my Lings to the other side of the map so quickly and everything. Well, actually, they're going to get their army to your side of the map. You don't have much time. This window for these Ling run-bys is very, very small. And Reynor gave his best effort in trying to make those Ling run-bys work, but besides maybe that one time we were talking about he snagged a siege tank or something, he really didn't get the damage done with any of them. I guess there was the SCV kills at one time, but uThermal also equalized after that.
Yeah, he did. Gosh, what a really, really good series. I'm so glad we're going to the ace match.
I feel like the only people who are wrong about this match in terms of who could win this were the people who thought that this is going to be 3-0 either way, or a very one-sided series. So all of you overconfident folks out there, this is definitely one of the most hype matches for the round of 8 so far.
Yeah, and everyone who's left in this tournament has such the sickest story, and technically everyone has a chance to make it to BlizzCon if they get that first place prize.
Absolutely. Reynor, I mean, this is his second big WCS event in 2018. couldn't participate in 2017 because he was too young, but this other guy, also a veteran of the WCS circuit and StarCraft itself. We have our blue Terran player down here, the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Spawning in blue, it is Team Liquid's uThermal.
Oh, Yali G in the top left. As the red Zerg, he is Reynor.
Zombie Grub. The series begins a certain way. Let's just say it's going to end a certain way.
No, we can't stop gritting, actually. This is such a ballsy move from uThermal. I was going to talk about how Dreamcatcher has pros and cons for both of these races. You got the ledges for the tanks, but then you have all the pathways for the surrounds and the run-bys. But that's not really going to be something to talk about if it's going to be the full 3-4 racks, as we see a third SCV coming forward here. Is Reynor going to assume the uThermal wouldn't do this? No, he already has a pool on the way.
He has a pool on the way. He's been playing very conservative with either his overlords or the pool first throughout this series ever since that first game. He knows uThermal is the kind of player that could bust it out on any map in any situation. He's not afraid to take a risk. uThermal, is he going to be able to make this pan out? Will he be able to make this work? This is so hard to transition out of when you go for the 4 barracks proxy.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. You don't really plan on transitioning most of the time. I feel like the most ideal scenario for the Zerg is still scouting this, you know, and keeping the overlord alive, of course, but yeah, scouting this. So I'm still a little concerned, even though Reynor has the pool already available. He's going to have a queen available. He's going to have access to building spine crawlers available. This hits so hard and fast that just the fact that you have no idea that it's coming is sometimes good enough. But he is going to go around and search for this.
Yeah, I think he's realized the Reaper is not visible. Normally the Overlord, I think, will see that Reaper coming down or trying to move across the map, and he's not finding the Reaper. He's not finding anything else. He should have a decent idea, but he can still move in with the links, maybe do some damage to the SCVs.
If that is his plan, then it's a very tricky one. And if it was his plan, I feel like we see spine crawlers. Now we see spine crawlers. You realize there's no command center on the low ground. Is it too late, however? That proxy racks was kind of still far away. The Marines and the SCVs go up to the natural. They're actually going to spend time killing this, so they want to go to the main, I believe. Yeah. There they go.
Go after those drones. You don't have much time. uThermal going for the jugular. Reynor able to do some damage, forcing a pull of all the SCVs across the map, and uThermal trying his best to kill off as many drones as possible. Drones trying to get a surround on these Marines. Is it going to be enough? They're starting to get most of the SCVs picked off. uThermal getting surrounded, but it looks like the Marines managed to survive.
But there's still 2 queens, and it takes so many Marine shots to actually tear them down. We even have a spine crawler. The SCVs are finally here, but I don't know if there's enough Marine damage output to actually do this.
The spine crawler's not getting target firing down. He's focusing on the queens. The spine crawler is going to be able to burrow successfully. More links driven on in. This is match point. One of these players is going to be moving on, and uThermal losing his last Marines. It's going to be settled. Reynor moves on to the semis.
Congratulations to this very young pro gamer as he advances on. His BlizzCon dreams are still alive as he has to win, I believe, to do it, correct?
He's on his pathway through.
But he is looking so good as the crowd is actually chanting for him. He's so happy, and he is absolutely a contender against who we figure is Cyril, but whoever is in the finals, he's a contender.
He can't even stand right now. He's just stuck there, floored in his chair as he tries to figure out what to even do from here. Like, soon we're going to be hearing him move on to the interview with Smix, but holy cow, this kid is on fire. He's legendary. He can only play in 2 WCS tournaments this year, and he's made his way into the top or close to the top of the WCS point standings. He's looking to go the full distance, and he just has 2 more matches left, Zombie Grub.
That would be an insane run indeed, but we are going to hear from Reynor himself. Give him a cheer, guys, as he talks to Smix.
Absolutely amazing stuff from a 16-year-old. Congratulations, Reynor. This is your 2nd WCS event ever. At your first one, you made top 8. Now at your 2nd one ever, you're already in the top 4. I mean, what is going through your mind right now?
It feels amazing, and the crowd is amazing too. So, like, it's 10 times better like this, and yeah, it feels amazing.
You were so impressive in this series against uThermal. It went all 5 maps though, especially with how he started on the first map and the last map with his aggressive 4 proxy racks. Did that catch you off guard at all, or did you feel prepared, especially in that last map, that you could handle it?
The first map, yeah, I got caught off guard because I didn't think he would go for any proxies, since I like to go 16 pool. But he did it anyways, and in the last map, I was kind of expecting it. So, nice.
Nice indeed. You have another Terran opponent coming up. You just showcased how great you are against uThermal. It's going to be Time coming up next, and we all saw Time absolutely dismantle Hero Marine 3-0. So does that worry you at all, or do you believe in your ZVT?
No, not really, because TvZ is my best matchup again, and I'm not. Like, the thing that worries me the most is that I don't know how Time plays. I would have loved to play against Hero Marine, but yeah, I'm still quite confident, and I hope I can win.
Sounds great. Well, congratulations again, Reynor. And this 16-year-old is moving on to the semifinal.
Indeed he is, and carving out a potentially insane path as he gets closer and closer to a miracle run for the global finals. uThermal, some of those hopes getting dashed, bringing out the cheese once, not able to make it work the second time around.
Yeah, it worked so well in that game number 1. I don't necessarily fault him. And you know what? It takes a lot of guts. For years and years, it was the Koreans that were willing in those tiebreaker 3-3 or 2-2 games to say, okay, I'm going to put it on the line with a really crazy build. And it was the foreigner that wasn't willing to take that risk. But uThermal put it on the line. And with that, by the way, his hopes of going to BlizzCon, I believe, are either eliminated or very, very minimal. I think they are actually eliminated, but I just don't have that confirmed in front of me. So a devastating loss. But if you are going to lose to somebody, adorable young Reynor that's got this amazing run, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to that he's such a decisive player, Reynor. He's not afraid to play the pool first and build the 6 Zerglings, and he's got that dynamic nature. In this matchup especially, he can play the straight-up macro game, and he's very scary to play there. People feel pressured to try to rush him, to take him down, but he's very willing to just, you know, change it up, play the very safe 6 Zergling rush build, and he's just got that flexibility. So Reynor here looking amazing, poised under pressure, and a great win to go forward. A couple of narrow victories. He's always been taken to the 5th set so far, so he's really warmed up.
And with that, Reynor is going to move on to the semifinals, and what a bracket we have. We have our top 4 here, 3 Zergs and 1 Chinese Terran. Something that we have not had in a tournament. I don't think a Chinese Terran has ever made it this far in a StarCraft tournament that I've ever seen.
Not StarCraft 2.
Huge congratulations to Time making it up here. Cyril and Lambo. It's going to be a very difficult match for the German Zerg player, but that is what is coming up next. We have 2 semifinals, and then it's time to decide the champion of WCS Montreal. Gentlemen, any final thoughts on that series?
Just some really interesting storylines. Like you said, the first time a Chinese player has gone this far, that's huge. Reynor making his deepest run, and of course, can Cyril hold off Lambo to go ahead and secure for himself perhaps the 4th final in a row for him?
An epic story it would be if Cyril is able to do that, and we're going to be finding out that in just a few moments' time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the World Championship Series. We'll be right back.